Hello all, my name is Colson Farrow. I have chosen for this project to perform a poem called I'm Shaking Apart, Nobody Knows Me, by Rex Clark, intertexted with quotes from the Old and New Testament of the Bible. The poem is about the struggle that accompanies coming out as a member of the LGBT community, especially to those who are raised in religious families or societies. I saw with my gay friends firsthand what they went through going to an all-boys private Catholic high school, but nothing really hit close to home, like when my cousin came out to me. He's one of 35 cousins on my mother's side, which is very large and Irish Catholic. We've always been close growing up, and we're still good friends now. Last week he told me he was gay, and that he didn't want me to tell anyone else in the family because he didn't want to put up with how some of the other relatives would react. An older cousin of ours came out a few years ago, and it went well for the most part, but some of my cousins and uncles weren't totally okay with homosexuality. I'm using this performance to illustrate how much of a challenge it can be to come out to a large religious family, and also to show how there really are some parts of the Bible that can be perceived as homophobic. I think religious people need to come to terms with that. My therapist punched me in the gut with a few casual sentences, rung out the terrifying truths that sit ever present on the sidelines of my brain, outlined them neat and clear, like they weren't something I've spent hours, days, heartbroken and afraid of. I was admitting that I couldn't tell my parents anything real, ever. Our religion, our God, has put up a wall that only I'm aware of, up between us. Leviticus, chapter 18, verse 22. You must not lie down with a male in the same way that you lie down with a woman. It is a detestable act. You shall not have sexual relations with any animal. Colossians, chapter 3, verse 5. Don't be controlled by your body. Kill every desire for the wrong kind of sex. Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 9. Those who are sexually immoral, idolaters, adulterers, men who submit to homosexual acts, men who practice homosexuality, thieves, greedy people, drunkards, revelers, and extortioners will not inherit God's kingdom. I admitted I couldn't accept their attempts at support, at love, because the wall is too high, too opaque. Questioning your sexuality, maybe? He said, real easy like he was making a comment about the weather. His eyes tracked the movement of my knee bouncing, my hands shaking. He pretended not to see it. Peter chapter 14, verse 14. Their eyes are full of adultery and are unable to detest from sin, and they entice unstable ones. They have a heart trained in greed. They are accursed children, abandoning the straight path. They have been led astray. Romans chapter 1, verse 24. Women exchange natural intercourse for unnatural, and in the same way also the men, giving up their natural intercourse with women, were consumed with passion for one another. Men committed shameless acts with men and received in their own persons due to the penalty of their error. Timothy chapter 1, verse 9. The law is not laid down for the just, but for the lawless and the disobedient, for the ungodly and for the sinners, for the unholy and the profane, for those who strike their fathers and mothers, for murderers, the sexually immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to the sound doctrine. He asked me why I haven't confided in anyone about it. I'm shaking apart, I know it. He asks if I really think they'll push me away. He says it like it's an impossibility, that they love me. So there's no way they could look at me with hate in their eyes. I don't know how to explain to him that they love a picture of me that they've created. Sweet little girl that lives in their minds, that they've put on the pedestal in their hearts. They love her, not me. How could they? They don't know me. They don't know my name, my priorities, my heart, my soul. If they did, they would hate me. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13. If a man lies with a male as a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. They would hate me because their God, who told them in Matthew, they must love him more than their children. He said so, and they love him. And God help me, so do I. But trying to love him and not myself has been burning me up for 17 years, and I'm shaking apart. I know it. This poem expresses how difficult it is for someone who is religious themselves to come out to their also religious family. The speaker of this poem is someone who believes in God and loves God. They are conflicted because who they are as a person contradicts their religious and moral beliefs. One of my performance decisions was to say the name of the chapter and the verse from the Bible that I was reading. I cited the exact reference point in the Bible and quoted it word for word because I wanted to show how there really is homophobia plainly written in the text, and without interpreting it is very offensive. Eliel Cruz, an LGBTQ activist, in an interview in reference to the Orlando Pulse Club nightclub shooting, said, and I quote, "It's clear that religion is at the root of, if not all of, the legislation attempting to continue to oppress us LGBT individuals. I chose to perform verses in the Old and New Testament because almost everyone is at least a little bit familiar with them, thus having some prior knowledge and context. Shauna MacDonald writes, "Prior knowledge provides a doorway to this new mode of interacting with a text. I thought this performance would be enriched by the audience's prior knowledge so that they can reconsider the text's meaning, which is the whole purpose of Intertext. In performing this assignment, I did not intend to insinuate that all religious people are homophobic or transphobic, but I believe that one should interpret religious teachings to themselves rather than to blindly follow the masses." The end.